Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. We have the market that has a nice rebound after we have positive inflationary data that shows us that inflation is still trending towards the cooling off side. What this is doing, especially for analysts, are continuing to price in and basically seal the expectation that we're going to see those first interest rate cuts come September. Now, the market is currently pricing this in. We see a positive reaction, and Palantir correlates with this positive reaction today as we see confidence coming back in after we saw a little bit of the pullback, of course, when we had the big drop earlier in the week, with PLTR closing at 27.18. We're going to be talking about some important things, what people are kind of talking about all right now, and especially with earnings coming up here August 5th post-market. That is not many trading days away. So let's talk about what we need to get into, all the details you need. If you are a new or returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Now, what we see here is Palantir Technologies, like I said, closing at 27.18. Volume has actually been decreasing compared to what we've been seeing on average, and it's good to see here that we see basically some consolidation and a little bit of momentum up about 2% of the day. Remember, Palantir was up here in the 29s, and after we had that major tech sell-off earlier in the week, we saw it fail that 27 level of support. And we see it come down here to the 26s, a drop down here to a low of 25. And where we see PLTR right now is kind of riding this support trend line you can see right here and building support at that 27.18 and kind of utilizing this micro level of support. I wouldn't call this basically a foundational level or anything like that, but you can see we've seen a reversal triggered here before, and right now it is sitting at that point. In terms of options and what we're seeing going into next week, August 2nd, for end of the week expirations, we are seeing a decent amount of call volume here in the higher 20s, but also a good amount of puts. And really what this is combining is talking about going long on Palantir and the potential. Interesting article here that's talking about potentially PLTR investors should wait. Now, one of the big, of course, criticisms that we talk about all the dang time is the valuation. We know the valuation concerns for Palantir stock. And why I think this article here is telling potential investors to possibly tread water is because of earnings that's going to be happening August 5th post-market. Like I said, earnings per share is estimated to come in at 8 cents per share, and that is corresponding with a revenue estimate of about $652 million. Now, the thing with PLTR is we usually have a lot of volatility and momentum and trendiness, especially with an earnings report that comes up. And I think that's only going to increase for this individual stock as we get closer to that August 5th date. And the reason talking about valuations in here and this Investor Place article talking about potential investors should wait is because if you're looking to get into Palantir right now, there could possibly be large price swings. Now, this could go either direction, but considering with the big tech sell-off that we saw and how quickly PLTR was kind of, I want to say, under some severe selling pressure, if earnings does not come into its expectation, we could see that same event continue, and that could even cascade to lower support levels, like even like the 20. However, if PLTR has a major breakthrough and is able to successfully smash the earnings expectations, that's where we could see possibly back to that $29 level of resistance and even possibly touching the 30s. Now, of course, valuation, we know, price to earnings, price to sales, they're all sky high through the roof. And talking about being on the watch list right now is not necessarily a bad thing because fundamentally, in my opinion, Palantir is a very strong business. And we've really seen that, especially here with a strong year-to-date performance. Look how far Palantir has grown, not just this year, but also last year, and what AI integration has really done for this particular company. We've seen AIP that has been incredibly successful. We've seen very important deals and collaborations that have been established that really help increase the company's exposure, which also lets different clients, different industries, different sectors and niches all incorporate their software in to their actual business. And this is important because this are all different types of revenue streams and industrial streams for PLTR. And where we lead with that, talking about the market, we are seeing stocks that are continuing to see a little bit of a rebound here as the Dow closes 650 points higher. This is a positive note, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, as investors really are weighing fresh momentum off of the US inflationary data. Now we see the move from the oversold sentiment from previous trading days this week, and you get a stronger than expected GDP report and the view that the Federal Reserve will begin cutting rates due to economic resilience. Now, what we see in terms of the benign PCE report, we see the movement into small caps. This has been happening looking at the Russell 2000 index, and why these small caps have really been increasing and even up 1.67% today is due to the fact that these smaller companies now have the ability to borrow money at a cheaper price if these interest rate cuts do happen. And these can help really expand and invest into growing these smaller cap companies. Wall Street also assessing the June's Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, the PCE data. And headline PCE data, that is a very important inflationary gauge for the Fed. The reading that came in rose 0.1% and 2.5% from a year ago. This was in line with the estimates from economists, and the positive inflation news is also, like I said, lifting the hopes for the rate cuts this year with the Fed funds futures market pricing in cuts for September. So those percentages and the probabilities of the first interest rate cuts were about like 70 to 80%. Now, theoretically, I think the market is basically fully assuming this, which means for some reason, if they did not cut interest rates, this is where we could see a lot of selling off, especially in the tech stock market, and that could affect Palantir. And I think this is why treading the water right now with Palantir is not necessarily a bad thing, and keeping it on your watch list, especially if you are just looking at PLTR from afar, if you don't have a current position. And talking about that, NVDA, what we've seen with NVIDIA, especially recently, is kind of sitting around this 113, 120 area. And we've seen a little bit of a pullback from this high at about 140. Now, we know NVIDIA has been on the run, but we see these Wall Street analysts that are continuing to release high price targets. And you see specifically here, we have BRAR, if I'm saying that right, do not know how to pronounce that. They raised their one-year price target on the stock from 120 to 175 per share, with the stock price at 114 right now, suggesting another 54% increase within the next 12 months. And talking about, is Wall Street underestimating NVIDIA stock still? And what these expectations are coming in and basically saying that the company's data center, they could deliver revenue between 215 to 240 billion, far ahead of the average analyst estimates call for the sales of 145 billion. We know NVIDIA has been smashing the earnings, has been smashing Wall Street expectations, and we've seen this, and they are kind of redefining the market, especially with these AI chips coming out with them now on a yearly basis versus every other year. That is putting the pressure on a lot of the semiconductor competitors. And the fact that NVIDIA has the resources to stay up with this and be at the top of the game still shows me the potential for NVIDIA's run-up that could continue. Now, this is not the same story across the board. We do have Raymond James here issuing a major warning on NVIDIA stock, suggesting from a technical perspective that they could see a sell-off on the horizon and possibly some profit taking for the rest of the year. Now, NVIDIA stock is down about 20% from its recent all-time high, and pullback has really been due to different things like some geopolitical concerns, major tech sell-offs within the market, not things that are just individually NVIDIA focused. So that could possibly be, depending on what your perspective is, Could be buying the dip, or it could be waiting for even a bigger dip. Now, I want to know, in your opinion, what do you think is going to be happening here with Palantir Technologies going towards earnings every single day getting closer? Do you think we're going to see that run up? Do you think waiting on the sideline is not the worst idea in the world? And do you think interest rate cuts, the first one's going to happen in September? And what's your opinion on NVIDIA? Are you bullish or bearish right now compared to what some of these analysts are saying? Peace out, take care, have a wonderful weekend, and I'll catch you guys later.